It was in an attempt to prevent the reoccurrence of the violence that was witnessed after the 2011 general elections, which led to the death of over 800 persons or more, and created tension in the country, that the peace accord was taken into consideration and it was signed in early January of 2015 in Abuja by two leading presidential candidates, as former President GOODLUCK Jonathan, that's of People's Democratic Party, and also President, MUHAMMADU Buhari of the All Progressive Congress APC, as well as 12 other candidates of other political parties. Now, the agreement placed this moral duty on the candidates to actually restrain their supporters from acts of violence and also accept the outcome of the election. It was from 2015. It was carried out under the watch of the late United Nations scribe, that's KOFI ANNAN, and former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Chief EMEKA. And the National Peace Committee, that's NPC, under the leadership of General ABDULSALAMI ABUBAKAR, was set up to monitor and promote dialogue between the two leading candidates. Now, the acceptance of the outcome by the former President GOODLUCK Jonathan, for many, actually has been seen as a major success story of the peace accord. Now, what about 2019? What do we need to see differently? Will this come in place as well? Well, that is already on the front burner, because today there was another recommitment, if I could use the word, to actually see to national peace. Let's focus on Nigeria today. Welcome to the program. My name is Blessing Abu. Yes, in the studio to take a look at this issue, well actors in this project called Nigeria, and I have my guests already seated. Yes, one of them too was there, taking a look at what we need to do to actually maintain peace. I'd like to welcome Dr. Unisa Tanko, of course, the family affairs on several of our programs, a presidential candidate for National Conscience Party. Welcome to the program, Dr. Unisa Tanko.
Thank you.
We also like to welcome, here's another familiar face, public affairs analyst, Jide Ojo. Thank you for coming on the program.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes, today is another time to actually see to the process of democracy and to advance its course. Like I already pointed out, part of the introduction, this was expedient for us to do at that time. It was palpable what the fears for many were concerning the elections that were forthcoming that time. Today again, history is being recommitted to take its place. Well, I'd like to share with us what took place there. Here's several actually witnessed, but give us a tidbit. How imperative it was for us to have this commitment once again.
Probably I should go back memory lane while you are trying, when you read out some of this, what happened in 2015. You recall that before the election in 2015, you could feel the tension in the air.
It was palpable, so much.
It was so much to a point that even you yourself, you are not sure if you want to go out where you should think twice before going out. So there was this feeling that something needs to be done. In fact, it was also said that even before that election or after that election, Nigeria is going to break up. Some of the best that we have in the country under the government as at that time I was the chairman of the Interparty Advisory Council. So, there's always different side to it, always in story. So we were now called that, look, how can we do this? The Interparty Advisory Council is supposed to be able to talk to its members. And after all, at that time, the both political parties, the PDP and the ACN, as guess at that time, were members. Can we find a way of curtailing these particular hate speeches and probably fighting if we can stem it down? Then the committee was set up. Committee was set up with eminent Nigerians, and I must confess, the kind of work that the chairman of the committee put in place was unbelievably, it's commendable, because at every point in time, either he raised a call to the present president at that time, or reach out to General MUHAMMADU Buhari at that time, and they come in. In fact, I remember with nostalgia, there was a time in which the present president could not meet us in the evening for a meeting. He came 7 a.m. in the morning. That's to tell you how important those particular meetings were. So when we hear from this side, we hear from the other side, and we hear from the other political party, then we draw a conclusion on what do we do. And eventually, it turns out that the issue of signing an accord seems to be an agreeable position for all the political parties, so that let's take it to the public domain. When you put all of these gladiators to sign a document that says, I'm committed to non-violent, free and fair elections so that we can talk on issues, and then most importantly, once our members and our supporters see us that we are not involved in anything violent, that will have shown the sign in which we are going. And it worked. And when the signing was due, I wish I had the copy. I wanted to bring it to you. There was a report of that particular event of 2015. It was well collaborated, and then the signature of every political party and the presidential candidate was done, and then everybody, it reduced the tension, and I feel this will happen, and it has already happened. It's already happening now, because what we witnessed this evening, starting from 3 o'clock, was another chance for us to advance the cause of our democracy from monsliding, backbiting, name calling, to issue-based politics. Now the narrative has been put on the front burner. Let's see how each of the presidential candidates goes about campaigning, not calling each other's name. Because the Nigerian people deserve a better opportunity, rather than them talking about who has stolen what have stolen what, and who is corrupt and not corrupt, and all of those ones. You should leave it to the institution to deal with. But what can you give to the Nigerian people? And then that signature really came into place. All
right. Before today's outing as well, of course, I'm glad you were able to take us back memory lane. Of course, Judy, these were things that were already seen over the period, and for Nigerians, just beyond coming to just sign, or people now coming to just we're going to be having this stand. 2015 till now, it of course is a process, a continuous process. Democracy is a continuous process. How have we been able to live on that path, leaving behind those narratives that were before 2015? Now this is another time to sign. Is it just beyond signing for you?
Well, it's a very worthy initiative, and I really do commend former head of state ABDULSALAMI ABUBAKAR for taking the leadership and ensuring that there is peace. Election cannot be conducted credibly in an atmosphere of violence, and if there are if there is a plague that is afflicting Nigerian politics, it's violence. When you take violence, you take vote buying. Those are the twin, phenomena, ugly phenomena that this country is still saddled with, regrettably, since our electoral history started in 1923. And like you pointed out in the opening remarks, 2011 was a watershed where over 800 lives were lost as a result of post-election blues, particularly in 13 northern states. Now, how have we fared? We fared very creditably well. The last general election, like my very good friend there pointed out, everybody thought Nigeria was going to break up. There were predictions to that, but we were able to save the day, because even though I must point out that politicians were still largely not committed to the letter and spirit of those peace accords, or that particular one. Because I recall there was still a lot of hate speeches, a lot of mudslinging, backbiting. In fact, the collation of that election, presidential election result at International Conference Center here, you recall that a former minister was even disrupting, he disrupted the process, so much so that if not for the large-heartedness of those who were there at the collation center, something else could have happened. But it took the statesmanly behavior of former President Goodluck Jonathan to save the day. Because if he had dug deep, if he has said that I'm rejecting the outcome of this result, we will have had a blowout. And mercifully, he was able to adhere to the principle of that peace accord. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, it's one thing to sign. It's another thing for you to be committed in deed and in truth to the letter and spirit of what you sign. Unfortunately, unlike what we had in 2015, 2015, where the major gladiators all put pen to paper. In this today's one of the major gladiators was conspicuously absent. We are yet to know exactly why he was absent, but it will have gladdened my heart if all the major dramatics personnel in this electoral process were to have committed themselves to this. So the absence of one it's giving one cause to worry, unless we hear why that he was
the reasons that will be advanced.
Because we need to have, you know, the front horse is the one that the back one used to pace. It's when you see your leader, and I think it's the party chairman and the candidates that signs. So if the party leadership of the major opposition party is not there, the candidate is not there, then we have not heard officially why they boycott that process. Until when we hear from them, we want to know whether they are actually committed to peace process in the lead up to this 2019 election.
Okay, let's take a look at what renewed commitments is expected of those, at least that came and actually had the signature taken. I said a 5-point peace accord was signed earlier today. Lajitanko, you were there. So what are those renewed commitments? What is fresh?
No, there's nothing fresh. It's just the commitment indicates very clearly as regard to the conduct of each and every candidate, what is expected of each of candidate to do, and what is expected from his own party, and what is expected of his own supporters, and then that each and every one of us, we are committed to having a peaceful, free and fair election. Okay. I'm praying that INEC will do what is dutifully bound to do, and then the police will do what is supposed to do, and also we, the political party, will do what is expected of us to do based on law and order, and we are expected to play the game fairly. Let me use the word that was used. Let's use the word fairly, so that we will not be as if it's a do or die a contest. But I must also say that I don't know, probably some of the other people, very few I once believe did not come, probably communication issues, and then agreeing on the time of the peace, because you know we are moving on a very fast lane now, and everybody is committed to continue to his campaign, and then certain areas you may want to like say, okay, let me put it, because earlier on this particular meeting and signing is supposed to take place at 10 a.m. in the morning. 10 a.m. in the morning, probably because of the commitment of Mr. President, and was shifted to 3. So probably some people who must have put their schedule for 10 and have other things for 3, now have to try to think of readjusting. Probably they couldn't readjust, and probably that must have resulted. I'm not giving excuses for anybody for not coming, but I'm just trying to give.
As if you have
but I'm just giving, like for example, some of us have to start finding out exactly, is it true that they've shifted it or not? But I'm sure a lot of people did not know that the timing was for 10 in the morning. Even some of your press guys were asking, what time truly we are in the hall, nothing is happening. So we have shifted it to 3.
You see this as a great concern for everyone. If communication is broken down already at this point,
yes, that's
not a concern?
Well, you know, we have now 91 political parties.
Exactly.
91 political parties. To manage human beings is very difficult, especially politicians. We have other commitments where we think probably we may own these votes and all of those ones. So if we break that particular chain, we may feel such a... But I hope and pray that anybody that has not signed today will find time to visit the Kuka Center, where it is the secretariat of the Peace Committee. Of course, the National Peace Committee can always gather at any point in time if you indicate your interest in signing, so that you can now do the needful, because we want everybody to sign, because without peace, the election may not even take place.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's have Uncle and Sajidi Ojo will take a break now, and this is to enable us feel the pulse of the public over this. It's imperative we have peace, just like you have already pointed out, both of you, for us to have peaceful election and also to have a free and fair, like use the word that was used, fair election. Yeah. So let's get to the streets, and we'll be right back. We'll take a look at some other issues as it concerns peace accord and 2019 elections.
going to go a long way to help this country. So whoever loses the election will definitely have to agree with the other party.
A pact among the contestants, the presidential aspirants especially, for them to accept the outcome of the elections, for them to talk to their followers so that there won't be violence after the election.
As much as it is what will bring the political parties to understand themselves as a unit, so as to be able to now come up with something genuine for Nigerians to benefit and West Africa as a whole. It is a giant strike in that direction. It's very important.
It will help if the leaders will maintain it.
Welcome back. You're still watching Nigeria Today, and our focus is on the Peace Accord and 2019 election. Yes, before we went on the break, we're talking about what transpired at the ICC, that's the International Conference Center, venue of the Peace Accord signing. And of course, President Buhari was there to do his own part, showing another demonstration, or at least demonstrating the fact that I'm committed to this. This was what helped out in 2015, and he's replaying that particular. And I asked, how imperative is for us to actually maintain that peace, whether on the side of the public now, that's the electorate, as well as the political class, the leadership. For us, many could have said so many things. Yes, the campaigns have started, but now pinning it down for the people to have this direct message, how imperative is that for us today? So, Joe?
Well, it is very important, and we must not also lose sight that apart from this peace pact, which is just a token of committing to peace, there are other legislations that must be followed through, that must be enforced, that must be respected.
Such as?
The Constitution, the Electoral Act, the Code of Conduct for Political Parties. These three, and even the party constitutions. I have not seen a political party that says, I want violence, or I'm going to wrestle power through violence. It is marketing of ideas. And there are plenty provisions in the Code of Conduct. I mean, there is 2018 Code of Conduct for Political Parties, which was also signed about May or thereabout this year. There are part of the Electoral Act that speaks to issues of campaign and the need to have peaceful campaigns. They need not to engage in hate speeches and inflammatory comments. In fact, it also tells, there are provisions, I forgot, I think it's section 59 or there, that talked about even where you can campaign. For instance, you can't campaign in religious houses. You can't use masquerade to campaign. It's part of what the law has said in order to promote peaceful campaigns. And it saddled the Commissioner of Police with responsibility to ensure that he or she provides security at campaign. But more importantly, beyond the legislations and the accord and the code, is moral suasion. You must also be personally committed to peace, because without peace, even if the election was successful, it will be dented. Because you talk about peaceful, credible. It has to be peaceful to be credible. If you lose lives, as we are wont to doing, even in the 2015 election, over 200 lives were lost. It's just that on the scale of the death compared to 2011, we will say we will achieve drastic reduction. Because I have been involved in tracking of electoral violence, and I know that up to today we still have those issues of electoral violence. Of course, you will see that in recent past, even your station and the Ministry of Information has been working assiduously to promote, to tackle hate speeches and fake news, which are, always abingers of, which are triggers of electoral violence.
Yeah.
So we need to be committed beyond the signing. And this is more to the political class that, you know, they should practice what they preach. It's not to just sign and say, oh, we say, to be politically correct at the signing-in ceremony. For Mr. President, he must ensure that his followers, his party men and women respect this peace accord, because like he rightly understood, he was a beneficiary of that 2015 peace accord, and it is in his position. In fact, I would want him to reach out to all the other contestants to say, we are brothers in this project, and we must ensure that we make sure that our followers, our foot soldiers, our members, you know, both our on and off campaigns, do not engage in issues or acts that can promote violence, because that will make the work of INEC very, very difficult. And you will see, you possibly know that INEC itself has been at a receiving end. Some of his staff have been murdered, some of them have been killed and maimed, some of the election materials have been destroyed. Look at what happened in the Port Harcourt State Constituency 3 recently, just 2 months ago, where a state constituency election was disrupted by talks, and that election has not been held up till now. It has been postponed indefinitely.
So are there sanctions, or at least possible sanctions, for those who go against this one, or at least who want to disrupt, like we already pointed at some of this process?
With regard to the Peace Committee, there's no any legal enforcement there. But it is expected that probably if Mr. President could have signed this particular new electoral act, some of the issue of enforcement and the balkanization of INEC will have been considered, so that we will have an enforcement commission that will enforce laws rather than just looking at these particular issues of violence and then forgetting about it. And that is a recipe for another person to really perpetuate same. So we really need to look at the possibility of having that particular commission. The Uwais report recommended it. The Lemu report recommended it. The Ken Inamani committee also recommended it, taking the cue from Justice Mohammed Uwais. And I'm glad that Justice Mohammed Uwais too was at that particular signing today. And there bring us this particular junction that, look, we need to start thinking on how to make this election process very, very credible and peaceful. By the time you lose election, you now start going to the street and perpetuating violence. At the end of it, on which country or which constituency would you eventually come to rule? and I think there's this particular picture I watched. I think I saw the vice president, and then I saw the wife of the vice president, and then I saw another person, but then there was the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar. They were exchanging pleasantries, and then they were like almost like throwing banter, and one even saying thumbs up and all of them. And that's how elections campaign should be. And if that is a kind of a picture that is being shown to the whole world, what happens to the supporters? The supporters will always want to carry an axe and start to break somebody's head on somebody, which is absolutely not necessary.
Perhaps that's the message. You political leaders should actually let's to think.
You know, the truth about it is that I wouldn't want to say I exonerate myself and my party, but we know where we stand. But anytime when we want to put the issues on the table for everybody to see, we are talking about campaign based on issues. The Nigerian people have run away from politicians and they don't even trust them. And that is the reason why the issue of vote buying and all becoming a serious issue. What they want is that, look, a political party leader or a senator or a governor, somebody that you know on the street before, who doesn't have anything, all of a sudden, if he wins election through my own mandate, become unbelievably rich within a short period of time. And at that time, you're not looking at, okay, this man has taken so much now, I want to take my own from him before he goes back to the office. So these are some of the things that happen.
All right, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, presidential candidate, National Conscience Party. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Trust is key when we must take on aspects of leadership and governance, and I believe we should begin to rewrite history in that direction and hold newer conversations.
Exactly.
Mr. Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst, thank you very much for coming on the program. That's where we're going to hang this discussion, because definitely we seek peace. So it's a continuous process too for us here on Nigeria Today. And that's it on this edition of Nigeria Today. Want to appreciate our guests already, which we've done that. We appreciate you too for watching. Tomorrow is another time to join us for another interesting topic. My name is Blessing Abu. Enjoy the rest of your evening.